This is Story Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain a horror mystery thriller film called The Den. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. On a typical day, Elizabeth logs into her account in The Den, a webcam-based social networking program that allows users to interact with random people from all over the world. She connects with a young boy who greets her and asks if they can be friends. Elizabeth politely accepts his offer. Then the boy tells her that there's a monster in his closet. As she consoles him, the boy heads into his wardrobe where a ghost appears behind the boy, shocking Elizabeth. The boy captures her reaction as a part of his prank. Later that day, she watches a recording of a previous meeting with the board of graduates online. There she presented her psychology project regarding human behavior in front of the webcam. She aims to talk with as many strangers as possible, using The Den to record and analyze their behaviors online. While waiting for the proposal's result, she randomly chats with her friends who cheer her up and hope for the best. Finally, with the assistance of Sally, one of her graduate board friends, the board reluctantly grants her proposal. She immediately informs her friend and her boyfriend, Damien, who even video calls her to congratulate her. A little while later, Elizabeth begins her research by customizing the site's settings, removing all the filters that prevent her from interacting with random people worldwide. She confirms the site's warning of not being responsible for whatever she might see while interacting. On her first day, she is quickly exposed to the dark side of interacting with people online. She meets predators, a flasher, and she even witnesses a bike accident while using the site. That night, her friend, Jenny, joins her in her research while drinking beer. The two entertain themselves by the randomness of people online. They encounter a group of teenagers having fun, a cat grooming itself, and even a man dancing in his bunny onesie. They come across a young Indian girl whose camera appears broken, but Jenny skips her as she finds her boring. When Elizabeth heads to the bathroom, the strange woman comes back and becomes harsh with Jenny, prompting her to log out. That night, Elizabeth's account is hacked and her webcam turns on its own without her permission. The laptop records her while sleeping. Then suddenly, it logs into her Den's account and connects to the strange woman earlier, who only displays her picture. Suddenly, the sound of a woman crying in pain resonates from Elizabeth's laptop, waking her up. The following morning, Elizabeth calls her IT friend Max and inquires about what happened last night. According to him, the laptop can't turn on unless there's a ghost in her apartment. Max jokes around before hanging up the call. In a coffee shop, the Indian girl connects with Elizabeth once again. The stranger talks to her through the chat, asking if they can be friends. But when a guy approaches Elizabeth, the stranger hurriedly ends the call. That night, Elizabeth still interacts with people. After the nonsense calls, she finally meets Brian, who, unlike the others, converses with her in a composed manner. Elizabeth then receives an email from Sally asking about her progress. When she's about to reply, Damien calls her and asks her to join him for a drink, but Elizabeth refuses as she has work to do. Damien is disappointed as Elizabeth is so busy with her project that she forgets that he will leave the city tomorrow for work. He invites her on his trip, but still Elizabeth declines. Later that night, her laptop logs in alone once again, but this time someone carries it to her bed and records her as the hand caresses her skin. Elizabeth wakes up and, to her surprise, Damien visits her in the middle of the night. The couple kisses passionately, but Elizabeth turns off the webcam before making love despite Damien's protest. Unbeknownst to them, the site logs in again and captures the intimate moment that the hacker sends to the graduate board members. The following day, Elizabeth is motivated to speak with strangers again. She encounters the Indian girl again, who discloses that she likes watching people, like how she watched Elizabeth and her boyfriend last night. Alarmed, Elizabeth is speechless until the stranger's webcam finally opens. It shows a disturbing video of the Indian girl tied up and gagged as a masked man slits her throat on screen. Terrified, Elizabeth quickly reports the recorded murder to the police. The investigator admits that the video appears authentic, but they warn her that frequent host films are produced. Other than forwarding the report to the cybercrimes unit, there's nothing they can do. Still haunted by the murder, Elizabeth posts a photo of the Indian girl on the website to look for her whereabouts. Her buddies, especially Max, are convinced that the video is a scam. Still, she's unconvinced and determined to solve it. She even asks Max to locate the girl. When Max hangs up, he stalks the Indian girl's profile and connects to her friends. Elizabeth comes upon a group of people playing Russian roulette, which turns out to be a prank. She turns off the call and goes back to her post, where people find the video a joke. That night, Damien calls and comforts Elizabeth. He tells her to go offline for a day and enjoy the real world instead, informing her that he sent a zoo video for her. When Elizabeth takes another call from her phone, a masked man appears behind Damien and kidnaps him. When she returns to her laptop, Elizabeth notices that Damien left the video chat and she hangs up her phone. The following morning, Elizabeth receives a video message from Damien and it plays the zoo video he was talking about. After it plays, Damien calls her, but it isn't live as it displays similar footage from their past calls. The call then shows Damien's room abandoned, making her suspect that something wrong is going on. She immediately calls the police, arrives at Damien's place, and finds nothing there except Damien's computer on the floor. Despite Elizabeth's pleas for the police to investigate, they inform her that there's nothing they can do. Meanwhile, the hacker uses Elizabeth's account and summons Jenny to her place. Jenny quickly arrives at Elizabeth's place and finds no one inside. Jenny continues receiving messages from her, telling her that she's in bed. When she removes the blanket, Elizabeth isn't there. She discovers Elizabeth's laptop, which records her as a masked man knocks her out. Later that day, Elizabeth comes back to her house, with everything in place as if no crime had happened. She calls Max, who informs her that the Indian girl's account is untraceable. Disappointed and stressed, Elizabeth questions Max's software ability and hangs up. She then leaves a message to Jenny, who has been offline for so long. Elizabeth receives an angry call from Sally. She warns her that the video of her and Damien having intercourse has been distributed to the entire graduation board. Confused, Elizabeth tells her that she hasn't sent anything to her, but she finds the video from her emails and claims that she was hacked. However, Sally doesn't trust her anymore and informs her that the project has been revoked until further notice. A little while later, Elizabeth is convinced that she's been hacked and proceeds to examine the video of the last time she talked to Damien. She breaks it down frame by frame and discovers a masked man behind Damien. She calls the police again, but then receives a call from Damien, who shows her random videos from her laptop. Finally, Elizabeth receives a message from Jenny asking her to come over to her place. When she arrives, Elizabeth notices that the lights are off. After seeing water flooding from the bathroom, Elizabeth finds Jenny in the bathtub with her wrists slashed. Jenny is still alive, but she dies soon after. Later on, Elizabeth receives an email with a goodbye note from Jenny's email written by the hacker. That night, Elizabeth spends the rest of her night online watching self-defense, including loading and using a gun. The following morning, Elizabeth receives a video message from her pregnant sister Lynn. It shows a video of Lynn as if someone is stalking her. The intruder then breaks into her house, causing Elizabeth to send police there. She then calls her sister, but Lynn can't understand her as the call falters. Suddenly, the masked intruder knocks Lynn to the ground and points a knife to her stomach. Fortunately, they hear police sirens, prompting the intruder, including the cameraman, to leave. The cameraman then leaves the recorder on the ground facing the house's entrance. When cops surround the house, one of the intruders returns and takes the camera, implying that he's a police officer or posing as one. The intruder hides the camera and proceeds to film Lynn and Elizabeth inside. The intruder walks away and gets into a car where his mask sits beside him. Later that night, he follows Elizabeth back to her house, who packs her things to stay over at her sister's home. She then receives a video message request from Max, which plays the detective entering Max's home and being murdered on screen. Suddenly, her laptop shows live footage from inside her room. As she approaches the hidden camera, the lights turn off. Elizabeth immediately seeks assistance from the officer guarding her, but she discovers that he has also been slain. The masked man appears from her kitchen and knocks her off to the ground. However, Elizabeth manages to grab a knife, stab him repeatedly, and run. Another masked attacker waits outside and apprehends her. When Elizabeth wakes up, she is chained in a dreadful room with a GoPro strapped to her forehead. The room is empty except for a computer, which she uses to communicate with Damien. He informs her that numerous masked men are guarding them. Suddenly, the call goes off, and the computer plays a video of a man suffocating Max with plastic wrap. Terrified, Elizabeth walks back as she watches her friend die in pain. It is then followed by a live call from Damien, who is beaten to death and dragged off the screen. Elizabeth has nothing to do, but she is determined to get away from them. As Elizabeth tries to remove the chain, a masked man enters the room, prepared to murder her. However, she gains control over him and strangles him with her chair. But there are several other rooms in what appears to be an abandoned underground parking area. Elizabeth hides and equips herself with a hammer while being pursued by the killers. She runs further and comes across a masked man whom she beats to the ground. When she removes his mask, she discovers that he's only a young man. She demands where Damien is, but he tells her he's not here. Elizabeth perceives another man, so she runs until she escapes above the ground. When more masked men chase her, Elizabeth steals one of their vehicles and drives off. However, a truck hits her, causing her to crash and lose consciousness. Moments later, Brian, who spoke with Elizabeth before, receives a call from her. Like Elizabeth's first encounter with the Indian girl, Brian is enticed to chat with her even without seeing her face. Then a video of Elizabeth plays as she's being hanged almost to death. As Elizabeth begs, the man shoots her head without hesitation. Meanwhile, the footage of Elizabeth's death is all over a dark website which sells multiple torture videos that uses the den as the platform. When a man finishes watching Elizabeth's video, he purchases another one for $99, which features Brian. As the man intently watches Brian's narrative, his young son interrupts him, prompting him to close the tab quickly. As Elizabeth spends more time online, she discovers not even a quarter of the internet's dark side. Anonymous people take advantage of the internet and the thousands of people who use it. In the end, Elizabeth falls into the trap of a sinister online platform where people pay to watch others suffer. The sadistic cycle continues with Brian as the next target.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.